Welcome to One ABQ and You, conversations, culture, and community. A City of Albuquerque production with your hosts, Mayor Tim Keller and me, Leah Black. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of One ABQ and You. It's been a chilly winter. I say that because I'm cold right now, but driving around through the city, we've had these, I guess it's El Nino, and so there's been waves of snowstorms, and it's been cold. It's getting warmer, but I notice out there, people that are unhoused, it's a tough thing to see right now.
Yeah, it's like people always ask me, we're like driving around the city and what do you see, what do you experience? And look, there's lots of good things, but there's also some tough things. And there's no doubt we see the camps on the street and things like this, and in other cities too. I mean, it's actually,
yeah, we're not unique.
Fortunately, it's actually a little bit worse in other cities,
yeah.
But still an issue here. So, I think what's cool is today we're going to get really like firsthand experience. This guest we're about to have, she dedicates basically 24/7 to this community in the heart of the International District. So we're excited to hear from Joanne Landry.
Welcome back to another edition of our podcast, One ABQ and You. Very excited today about this guest. Joanne Landry, you are the director of Compassion Services Center. You are the lead pastor of Interfaith Bible Center. You are a lifesaver for so many people in the community facing homelessness and a myriad of other things, but welcome to our show.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
it's lovely to be here.
I know it's nostalgic for me because I've known Joanne a long time now, actually. I think I was trying to remember the exact year date. I want to say around 2005 or 2006, which is like 19 years ago, 18 years ago. So, usually on this show, we have a mix of things. We really try and talk about the individuals and sort of background. So I'm saying that because before we get into kind of the work that you do and the good work that you've done, tell us a little about how'd you even end up in Albuquerque and how'd you end up over in the International District?
Well, I was born and raised here, so I've been here forever. Me and my 4 brothers and my mother. She's a single mother, and I raised 5 little monsters. And then I got married in 1996, and I graduated in June from Manzano, and then in November, Jerry and I were married. So we had 3 children, Angelique, Jerry, Joe, and Paul. And now I am a grandmother.
Congratulations.
Of 6, yeah.
Wow.
Yes, 3 of them in college, 3 in college right now, and possibly in the next few years, another 3.
Wow.
So yeah, they're doing great. But Jerry and I, we moved to Texas, Southeast. We had just come out of kind of a lot of drugs and drinking, and I just told them I think we need to move. So we ended up moving to Texas, on Texas. And I had a neighbor, and she ended up inviting me to Interfaith to come have a Thanksgiving with them. I was ready to start changing my life. Jerry wasn't. So I ended up going that night, me and my 2-year-old, and I just fell in love with the church.
Wow.
So it was just kind of this great transition from drugs, and I had just discovered methamphetamine, which is very dangerous. So the Lord really pulled me out at the age of 21, and I just started a new journey. But yeah.
What a powerful faith journey. Now, out of curiosity, what was it? It was a church. What was the original church that you discovered? Was it the Interfaith Bible Church?
Yeah, it's been the Interfaith Bible Center, since the 70s, because I started there in 79.
Wow.
As just going and getting healing in my life. And now I pastored.
Yeah.
Wow, I know.
Who would know?
And we'll have to talk about that transition too.
Yeah.
So having been there firsthand, you probably felt even more compelled coming out the other side to help others. How soon after you got sober did you know that this was the way that you wanted to take your life?
Right away. Just right away. I started reading the Bible. I started transition from my rock music and that kind, because it was all kind of triggered and all led to the same. And I started listening. I discovered Christian, beautiful music. It's all kinds, blues and rock and all kinds of stuff. And it just really helped me to plant my feet and stay solid. And then the church itself, the folks in there, they right away said, let's do something with them. And then my husband soon came a week later. He thought I was flirting or something. You know, he's like, "Hey, go check it out."
Let me go see what's going on over
just
here.
Just a bunch of little bald old men. I told him, I'm not flirting. But he came, and together we had a beautiful calling, and the church just lifted us up and taught us and gave us the opportunity to sing. We used to go around, and we were a little singing group, and yeah.
That's cool.
It was very cool.
So how long did it take you from when you joined at 21 to then move into a pastoral position?
Well, actually, Jerry and I, see my son, Paul's in 84, he was just born, our youngest, and we had heard of some homes that were opening up in Bernalillo. So we ended up buying one of the homes. So we lived there in Bernalillo for 16 years. And I'd come in and out of Interfaith, but they had already gone through 5 pastors. And, the church really was in need of a new transition. So me and Jerry decided to spend more of our time back at the Interfaith Church. And we were voted in, so we said, let's take the mission, let's lay a new foundation of love. But see, at that time, you guys, the community was very healthy. There was just a whole lot of healthiness in the community. And then it just started to decline into the 80s and more into the 90s. The 90s is when it picked up the ugly name War Zone, which through your representation, we changed it to International District. But me and my husband, I just told him, I think we need to go back and live among the people to really understand the afflictions. And we did. We moved there, and we just started giving out groceries and clothing and had big Christmas parties for all the little kids, and it was fun. We just had a beautiful, beautiful time.
That's amazing.
Thinking about the neighborhood, we'll talk about a little bit about your ministry and the work you do, but just for folks, who aren't familiar with some of the history of the International District, it was something, and just at a high level look, it's been a refugee resettlement place since the 70s.
Yes.
So there's a reason why there's a lot of international folks there, an Asian community, things like that. It's actually the U.S. State Department actually is the sort of primary piece. And that was done because it was near the base. It used to be base housing. So when my family first moved there, that's where they lived because my dad was in the military. So and that's why it was all duplexes and fourplexes and things like that. Then the base moved housing inside the fence. And that was a real transitional moment for the community. I think it was late 70s, early 80s maybe. And so it did create a bunch of vacancies and really change some of the dynamic. But it's a long point to say this. Tell us a little bit about, because we're going to talk about the challenges. We know that it's tough times, but tell us what you think is beautiful about that neighborhood.
Oh, I love the people. And my husband, when he had the first cancer, he rested a lot. The second cancer took him, so he passed on. And that's when I started to notice there was a lot of new faces in the community. And I said, okay, I had already done the War on Weeds, and I had already hosted it. So I had met a ton of people at that time. And but then that ended. And then I started seeing a lot of new faces. And I told my husband, I said, I'm going to just go on the sidewalk, because poverty has always been there since we've been there. And I took a bunch of bread and goodies, and I just started giving them out and talking to folks. And I was like, oh my God, there's people are homeless. I didn't know. And that was in 2010.
Wow.
And then they said, yeah, we live in the park at the end of the block. And I was just floored. And I said, I got to do something. We didn't have a lot of funds, but I could buy milk and cereal. So that's how we started out, just giving them cereal. And then we went to 3 or 4 times a week feeding them. And then Jerry passed, and all the associations came together for an annual meeting. And I was just kind of, I call it swimming through peanut butter, because he was the love of my life. We were married 43 years. And I was just kind of numb. And then before you know it, everybody's like, we need to help Joanne. We need to get her some money. We need to get her a place. And Pat Davis, he was just such an amazing guy. He really did a lot for us. And he says, okay, I'll get you a building. We'll get some money. We'll put utilities. And then we had a commissioner there, and Miss Stebbins, and then she says, I'll get some money too. And before you know it, all this thing came together, and I'm just going, what happened? But I was glad, because we could do some awesome stuff. And, we started out like a little a day center where they could just come, relax, do makeup. And then the need for hygiene showers came.
Absolutely.
And we said, wow, what could we do? And then we heard about the camping showers. So we started putting all the camping showers up. And first they were like, I don't know if I want to go in there. I said, baby, I'm going to sit right here.
Aww.
Nobody will bother you.
Yeah.
So we gave them their body wash, shampoo, and a towel. And he says, go on in there.
And to feel safe.
Yeah. And then you could hear them singing. And they're so excited. Yay, Pastor, this is working. And then our wonderful mayor came through for us. And we have the most beautiful shower system, 6-unit. And the people are taking care of it.
That's great.
Yeah, and it's working.
What are in your opinion, what are some of the obstacles to housing that you have seen that people encounter?
Well, right before COVID, the same group that I was working with, I said, okay, we need to get you guys connected with housing. So I was working with Kevin Arthur, who was there at the time, and he gave me the surveys and said, dude, this is the way, what you do. We took 40 of the homeless folks at that time, and they did the surveys. And I said, okay, Kevin, here they are. What's next? Okay, let's do IDs. Let's get them. So we did all that. And then here comes COVID. And COVID shut everything down because they started changing the way that they were doing IDs and things like that. And then it started getting cold. And then that's when I went to Carol Pierce and I said, help me save lives. Let's do a warming station. And so she funded it, and that's how we started doing the night shelter. And it was just wonderful, and it worked, and but what happened there is it took so long for these folks to start getting into housing. And I've heard from others and people that are really involved with housing and helping folks. They tell me there's not enough for housing for all these people.
Right.
So we know. So that's when we're thinking, how can we create our own type here in Albuquerque, and especially the sidewalk campers. And I've seen some pretty horrific things happen this week. There's a lot of homeless haters, and they tried to burn down one of the homeless guys with his puppy. And he ended up at the church with me and brought me the puppy. And he was so terrified that animal welfare was going to take it, because I said, let's call them, they'll come check it out. And he said, I think I can still help it. So I gave him baby aspirin for the doggy and a big old tube of Neosporin and food for the baby. And the baby sat there and ate. And he said, Pastor, she hasn't eaten for nobody. And I said, that's okay. But my heart so broke. And then another lady, because they were doing so many fires trying to stay warm out there. And they were just throwing anything in there. And its smells were just horrible. And one of the cans exploded in her face. And she refused medical care. So we gave them, again, some bandages and things to help them out. But a lot of the challenges is that these folks have nowhere to go. Even though we're like, yeah, look at these great shelters, they can help. They're out there, we're adding more. And even that day I told that one gentleman with the puppy, I says, why don't you come into the Compassion? We'll make a way for you tonight. And he's like, no. So some of them cannot. So that's one of the big challenges that I'm seeing is, these people being there on the curbs, and then the community gets mad.
Yeah.
So, hats off to our commander. He finally cleared Trumbull. And it was so beautiful just to see our sidewalks again.
Right.
So the Compassion goes out now every day, and they sweep up the sidewalks and pick up any trash. Yeah, so they can be seen in the positive, because it's real quiet. You wouldn't even know they're in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for all of these stories that you encounter probably daily. What are some of your goals that you would like to see accomplished?
Well, something very beautiful has happened. I have a lot of ex-addicts, and I've known them forever and ever, and I knew them in that state, but I would always overlook it because I saw something greater in them. And now they have come clean. A lot of them, they're no longer doing the drugs, and now they're helping. We had a young man, I'm not going to say his name, but he was in the news, and he got himself in a lot of trouble. And he came to me, and he asked me if he could come stay. And I said, yeah, with, boundaries, and this is what I don't want to see. And he agreed. So he said, Pastor, I've been looking around for NA, and there's nothing around here as close as walking distance.
Narcotics Anonymous.
Yes, Narcotics Anonymous. So I said, well, we could take care of that, but let's do our own. So we created this amazing recovery program, and they really need it. And, they're on the sidewalks because of the fentanyl and the methamphetamine, a big part of the reason why they're there. And so we said, well, hey, if we can get them to come in for a meal and do recovery with us. So we do it every night at the Compassion Center except for Saturday and Sunday.
That's amazing.
And on Wednesday, we have a big feed. And it was our first Wednesday. And we had over 30 of the sidewalk homeless folks come out. And it was beautiful. We just thought, wow, we're doing the right thing. Now we're going in the right direction.
And if people can see someone of their friends that they've kind of hung out with getting clean.
Some of them sold them the drugs.
Wow.
But they're no longer doing that. They're cleaning. So, yeah, it's very beautiful to see that in action, because I always pick on them. I said, come on up and call. Come on up and say, give us, some kind of guidance. Inspire the people with something, and they're ready to talk. So yeah, just continue to see more sobriety in our community. That's our big goal. And see more of them saying, I'm ready to clean up. I don't need to be here anymore. And then see them progressively move forward.
And where is Interfaith located?
We're on the corner of Trumbull and Mesilla, southeast. And the church, Interfaith Bible Center, we're on the east side, and the Compassion Center, which is our outreach, it's on the west side, just right across the street. And I live in the church, so it's real easy.
So your story, I think, is also so powerful in that, we had these high-level arguments with city council about safe outdoor spaces and all this, and without going into those details, it does take people, the way we set this up in Albuquerque, to step up and say, no, I'll give one of these a shot. And I think yours is one of the few successful ones that also has been legitimately tried. A lot of people wanted to do it mentally, but then they didn't decide to do it. And it brings me to, I think, a question. What would you tell people who, in their heart, right, they want to do something? And of course, not everyone is in a place where they should be building a compassion center. But how would you kind of pitch them on the idea of actually getting involved in a real way? Because I know people ask me all the time, I want to help with the homelessness issue. And I know not everyone can do everything, especially the work you're doing, which is truly difficult, I think, for the caregiver. But what would you say to folks, what's the best way what are 3 or 4 different ways that they can help? And where can they find a piece of the calling that you got?
Well, I think they need to connect with faith-based organizations, other organizations that maybe have the same kind of a vision, and then create a kind of a plan, and say, well, this is where we could do it, and this is what it would look like. And then who are we going to put in it? That's what we ended up doing. We just started going to people, and talking to them, and they got excited. A lot of the homeless, they'll tell me, we just want somewhere to lay our head. That's ours. Like a small room that has a bed and you can close the door. Having 41 beds like I do, and I always ask people, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be real honest with you, do you have mental illness? Because sometimes if they have strong mental illness, being in a building with 41 beds, men, women, children, and pets, it can be really, really hard for them.
Right.
So, we want to make sure that the right people are coming in and they're going to have a good experience. And we're not just going to, set them up for failure.
Right.
So I would just say to somebody that would like to do that, just get problem solving, just throw out some solutions and how could we do this? Because can you imagine if every single church in Albuquerque was to get the vision to help at least 4 or 5 homeless,
right?
That would be a great solution.
That's a wonderful
because
vision.
They would be off the streets. And I see them every day transforming into, I have a lady, she's got a master's from Harvard and a bachelor's in science. and she's on the street because she saw her family, her husband and 2 children die in an accident right in front of her. So trauma, there's a lot of trauma out there, you know, and so we have to watch them and make sure that they're okay too. You know, is this a good experience for you? What could we do better for you? When we had the tent, we had a tent.
Initially,
and, oh boy, remember how they fought me on that?
Yeah.
But we kept going and going, and we got the tent. And they gave us the blessings, the fire marshal. And we did. I bought a $1,000 heater, and it would blow in warm air. And then we lined up, I think, about 15, 20 beds. And it was amazing how easier it was for those folks to come in, rather than just one big compiled room of a whole lot of folks, dogs and stuff.
I love your tenacity. It's amazing. And just thinking about how you started with cereal and milk on a corner and to what it's grown. So I would say you almost didn't have a plan in the beginning. So if somebody has that in their heart to spark it, just dive in any way that's approachable for you.
That's right. Stand on the sidewalk and give out beanies and gloves. I mean, they would just appreciate it so much.
You're very inspiring. Thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We've got to wrap things up, but you're a role model for so many in the community and for me.
Thank you so much.
So thank you. And I know Jerry was too. So I'll never forget him either. She had a wonderful, wonderful partner with a giant heart. So we miss him.
It was awesome.
But thank you for all that you do. And thanks for being with us today and sharing all that.
Thank you for having us.
You got it. Well, that was an amazing, powerful, actually, discussion that we just had with Joanne. And so refreshing to see someone, too, I mean, really just walking the walk. Like, look,
every day.
She's got lived experience. She's doing something about it. And so just grateful to have her in our city.
Thank you so much for listening, Albuquerque. And remember, it takes all of us to fulfill the promise of the city we call home. And we'll see you again next time on One ABQ and You. Be sure and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us at #OneABQandYou. If you'd like to share your own ABQ observations, experiences, or topic suggestions, reach out to us. You've been listening to One ABQ and You.